when did that idea came? And then when did you actually start executing the idea?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I started Say Hola Wealth in 2019 after I left a top executive job because I was underpaid and overworked. And I am the first one in my family to go to high school, go to college, have like
Mm,
this top executive job. And I had this idea that once I made it to corporate and made it to the top, like that I was living what my parents considered the American
yeah.
dream. And I was living what it seems to be the dream. Like if you ask
Mm,
people in my community, even my friends, they saw me as this, Latina chingona that made it to the top. And she looks good. She dresses so
yeah.
good. But my bank account was never reflected as
Mm,
success. Like I was still, earning six figures, living paycheck to paycheck because I had no knowledge of financial literacy. And so eventually I decided that I wanted to earn more. But anytime I negotiated my salary, my boss will tell me, like, you already make enough. Anytime
mm,
I prepare and did everything that Google would tell me to do, like the ins and outs of how you negotiate a higher pay, I will be prepared. I will practice in front of the mirror and I will go back to my boss and he'll say, well, you can only make the average 3%. And so I was always constantly told that I was in a way no good enough, and I'm doing quotation marks, to earn more money. And so I decided that I needed to just go. And I was so terrified to
mm.
leave this career because I started working when I was 16 for this company as a
16.
housekeeper, worked my way all the way to the top until I became the general manager. And I was terrified. And I kept thinking, like, should I quit? Should I leave? And I was like, no, Lucy, just be here, right? Like I was almost in a way talking myself out of quitting a job that wasn't serving me because I could hear this voice whispering in my mind like, you have it better than your mom. Like you should be grateful that you
Mm,
have a 401k. Like your mother went through so much for you to be here. So just hang in there. And I think the pivotal moment for me to just decide that it was time for me to go was when I shared with my former boss that I was expecting my daughter, and
mm,
he literally looked at me in the eye and said, oh, now you're one of those women in the company with that problem. And in that moment, my body felt something that I've never felt before. It was a lot of heaviness. It was a
mm,
lot of like sweatiness.
mm,
And I knew that I wasn't embarrassed because I'm pretty outgoing. So it wasn't embarrassment. It was more deep than that. But at that moment I didn't know what it was. So I left the company, and later on I started exploring a little bit more of, what does well building look like for people like me.
mm,
And I am married. And so my husband and I were able to create a plan to pay off student loan debt. Once I have the time, I wasn't busy. I made time to look at my finances. I made time to look at my debt. And I started kind of strategizing, like, what are the things that I can do? And through the process, I've actually learned that I was carrying a lot of trauma of money. So the funny feeling that I had coming when my boss said this to me triggered trauma that I didn't know I
mm,
had at all. And so in 2019, I started my business just trying to serve my community. But then when the pandemic hit and I saw how many Latinas were losing their jobs without having a $500 emergency fund, I was bawling in my living room. I was crying. I was like, how is this possible? Like I had the privilege to leave the workforce before the pandemic hit. Like I feel very
mm,
privileged, right? Like I have a husband who can support me, but half of those women, or maybe even more than half, don't have a husband, don't have a $500 emergency fund. So what can I do to give back to my community and teach them the importance of financial literacy?
yeah, I feel like you've hit on so many topics that we could talk about, like leaving your career, because that's like a big thing for many people to actually do, especially like starting a business venture where you don't know what to expect. Um, but let's go with like how when once you like left your job and you said did let's go like did you had the business idea once you left your job, or was it when you started your you trying to figure out like how to pay off your debt. Yeah, like how did that start, or how did you start
So
learning about it?
the business idea came. So my husband is also an entrepreneur, and
Okay.
once I left, I've always been very creative. Like growing up, I was very creative. I was very fun. I was very like, silly, a little bit stupid here and there. And I like that about me growing up. But once I had this executive job that required me to wear a suit, that, speak properly, be very professional, don't even talk to certain employees because you're
Oh
the
wow.
manager. So I feel like I adopted this identity of I can't be who I am. Like I have to let go of my Latinidad. I have to let go even like wearing red lipstick. Like you would never watch me going into corporate with a red lipstick because for me it was like don't wear anything that says that you are too much, that your Latinidad is too much, right? And so to answer your question, the idea came once I put myself back in school to earn my MBA because I have this belief that if I ever wanted to go back to corporate, and I'm doing quotations, I have to have a better degree, right? Like a lot of us have this
Yeah.
idea that more school is better. And so through the process, I learned about, I earned my MBA, so business administration. And in that moment, I said, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. Like, I don't ever want to feel like I cannot celebrate my Latinidad. I never want to feel like I'm too much. I never want to let a man decide my income potential. And it was just literally a decision that I made one day when I remember I was doing homework for my marketing class. And I said, I'm never going to let anybody, I don't care who you are, if you're a man or a woman, but particularly if you're a man, I'm never going to let that person tell me that I cannot earn more than the average 3%. And that's where my idea came about. I didn't know that it was going to be, money coaching. I honestly thought like it's going to be more of the business coaching because I was managing a $2.5 million company.
Oh wow.
I was managing employees. So I had like, in a way, I had already all of the experience that I thought I needed, right? But the beautiful part about deciding to just launch your own venture is that you get to create everything on your own terms.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I actually have a question with like that experience part, because like many of us, like let's say like for me, if I want to start a money coach venture, then if I don't have the experience, or saying that I don't have even like the financial stability, you could say, but you are passionate about helping your community and teaching them about money. Because me personally, I've also gone in the route of like healing my financial trauma beliefs that I've had. So do you think like, do we need to start like figuring it out ourselves, like how to build that wealth, or can we do it simultaneously? Is that the word, simultaneously, when
I
starting it?
think that is a personal preference. And, we definitely need more Latina money coaches because our community is so big, right? Like we're
Yeah.
the majority now. We definitely need more money coaches. But I want to say, like, you have to ask yourself those questions. Because for me, like I paid off debt, right? So I had the skill of this is how I did it. I also went through the mindset work of what it's like not to just keep buying. I was a very much an impulsive spender, an emotional spender, right? And so I have to coach myself. So it's really just a personal experience. Do you feel ready right now to take on that endeavor of coaching people through some of the work that maybe you haven't done? And if the answer is yes, then start. And if the answer is, you know what, I need a little bit more, then find out what little more means. Because little more can mean two different things, right? Little more for me can mean I have to coach another 25 mujeres. For you, it might be, you know what, I just need to spend a lot more time thinking about my money blocks, right? And so there's not a right or wrong answer on when you should start your money coaching business.
Yeah, it's just like starting to have that clarity. Okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would highly recommend is that you work with a coach. Working with a coach, like investing in coaching, is going to save you so much headaches. is going to give you so much clarity, and you're going to have the accountability. So working with someone, it just takes you like 5 years ahead.
And that's like the thing. Like many of us don't want to invest that money, especially sometimes we think it's too expensive, but it's not. If you like think of the return on investment, like you're gonna be either paying out. Let's say like if you invest on a money coach, you're gonna be paying off your debt faster compared to like if you're trying to figure it out all your by yourself. So yeah, that's
Exactly.
really true. Going back to your business, when you were starting it, what were some of like those limiting beliefs or those things where you were like that kind of like made you think about like whether do I want to really do this, or were like blocking you from the success that you have now?
Thank you. So one of the things that came up, which we were talking earlier on the podcast, was I knew I wanted to help my community, but my whole life I was a very private person. I was raised to be very private, where you don't talk about how much money you make, you don't talk about your success, you put your head down. And so for me to go from this private career to start doing things online, posting, sharing my story, came with a lot of heaviness, but also with a lot of healing. And so the first block was, oh my God, ¿qué va a decir la gente? Especially like my former employees, what are they going to say? And you say, you know what? It's not about me anymore. It's about my purpose. It's about me serving my community. And so for me, what really worked was working with a coach. Like I knew that I needed a coach that was already where I wanted to be. And investing in coaching came with a lot of shame for me, because I was thinking, well, you've been running this 2.5 million company, you've been managing 35 employees, like you should know how to go and start an online business, but it's so different, right?
Yeah.
And so I invested in my first Latina coach, and the process of just being in a community where you see other mujeres that look like you, other mujeres that aspire to be more than just the norm. To me, that was what I needed at the moment. And so I have to let go of the shame of how dare I to invest in myself when my husband is the only one that is providing at this moment.
Yeah, that I think that part that you said were like, how dare I invest on myself, especially with like the circumstances that one can be. That's it's and another thing that you mentioned is you while you're creating like before you creating content, you're breaking the beliefs on the identity beliefs that you had about yourself, where like, oh, what are people gonna think? Like, who cares what people are gonna think? Because if I know my intention, then or my why, then I know what I'm doing, and then by doing so, you're breaking those beliefs of like, oh, I'm a private person, or I'm not outgoing, or I'm not good at public speaking or whatever. So that's like really important. Um, are there any other things, or even like now, is there like things that kind of like in a way like set you back, or and then you have to like, okay, like no, like this is how it is.
Once I got over those two limiting beliefs, I was ready, because I just made that decision, and when you want to run your business or start a business, it's just a decision, right? Like you either start a business or you don't start a business. Like it's not like vamos a ver, like let's see if it works, right? Like and if you have that feeling of like let's see if it works, work with someone, because running a business takes a lot of energy and is or can be costly, right? So you want to work with someone who can help you identify the hiccups that they went through. For example, for me, I made some very heavy investments in my business at the beginning because I believe that I needed that to be successful. That I believe that I needed that to sign clients, and I didn't need any of that, right? So working with someone who can help you kind of get really crystal clear on where you need to go and the tunnel vision that you need for entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneurship is a roller coaster of emotions, right? And entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I believe that 100%, right? So if you ask yourself today, like, do I want to start my business? Yes or no? I hope the answer is yes. And I hope that you say, I'm in it for the long time. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail again. I'm gonna keep failing, but I'm gonna keep going. And a lot of the businesses actually don't make revenue for the first 3 years, right? And so if you have the business idea, getting crystal clear on that, especially financially, because a lot of us think that, oh my God, I'm going to launch this business and it's going to make me money tomorrow. It's like, no, like you get to see that the first year of your business, you make no money. The second year, you make very little money. The third year, that's when you're like, okay, I got this, right? But you have to have the mindset and the finances for you to say, I'm okay, right? So you don't go on these a sprinting mode of like, I just have to sign clients, I just have to sign clients, and then
Yeah.
nobody comes and you're like, I'm not good enough, right? Nobody wants to work with me. And we all been there, by the way. I'm sharing this because I've been there. And so just having a clear, consistent plan that is simple and sustainable is going to help with your business.